There were years with the Kayam Red Sox where I said, it can't get any worse than this. Fire Kayam Bloom. This is pathetic. This is ridiculous. I can't be a Red Sox fan, spend all this money going to Red Sox games. I'm a season ticket holder, and said, this is one of the most inept front offices I've ever seen in my life. But to quote Dumb and Dumber, when I didn't think you could do anything dumber, you go ahead and redeem yourself. And you got dumber. And this franchise is even more inept than I have ever seen before. And don't think I want to jump on here at 5:30 p.m. Eastern after this loss to San Diego, and I want to be negative. I would love for us, Sean, to come on and have a great 2 or 3 months where we're positive. This team is going to the World Series. I don't want to be negative, Big John. That's not what I'm going for. But we're watching this team unfold, and I want the people coming at me saying it's early March, it's early April. You've got nothing to worry about. Be patient. Good teams do not start the season 2-7. Good teams, it's unacceptable to go on a 5-game losing streak in March, in April, in May, in June, July, August, September. If you want to win a World Series, if you want to be a top 5 teams, it is not acceptable to be doing this. Alex Cora, for 2 seasons in a row, has started off the season with his team not ready to play baseball. It's unfair to the fans. It's unprofessional. Sean?
60-40, a Red Sox podcast. Big John and Sean, hot takes, special guests. This is 60-40. Hey.
Welcome, everybody, to the most electrifying podcast in Red Sox Nation. I am your co-host, Big John. Alongside me is Sean Big Smooth Jones, and together we are 64 Deep, a Red Sox podcast. Sean, how's your Easter going on Sunday?
It could be better. I just sat and watched 2 hours of a very disappointing loss, but that's how most of the games have gone so far. So I guess it's not anything specific about today. Transparently, I'm not doing too much for the holiday just because I'm not with family. Normally I'll go home occasionally and we'll do a big thing, but not this year. I've been traveling a bunch, so trying to keep it a little bit more low key, but thought I could enjoy a nice little Red Sox game to, spruce my afternoon up. And it was quite the opposite. But what about yourself?
It was quite the opposite, back-to-back days in a row. And me and you last pod said that we thought Chapman was going to regress. And yesterday was one of the days he regressed. What's frustrating about it too is how he regressed. That was with 2 outs, and you have giving up the lead and with a 2-out game. Today was just as equally as frustrating as we watched Ranger Suarez and Weiser giving up 3 home runs so far to start the season. Like, it can't get any worse than we're watching right now. But Sean, not to rub in your face, I didn't mean to do this, but you're having one hell of a week, right? A hell of 2 weeks. We had the Red Sox, and you're a Duke fan, so you've had to go through that game.
It's true.
And now the Red Sox as well.
I have a very funny story for that, actually. I was flying home during the game, and it was going to work out great. It was, the whole game was supposed to fit in my flight. It wasn't, because it can be annoying when you're like boarding the plane and the game's already started, or you're deplaning and you're like trying to switch to your phone or whatever. It was going to be the 2 hours of the game were in slap in the middle of my flight. I always fly Delta living in Atlanta, so they always have TVs. They always have Wi-Fi for free if you're a SkyMiles member. And I watched the first 3/4 of the game. I was feeling, pretty good. Duke was up about 10 at the 10 at that point, and the Wi-Fi completely shuts out for a good 45 minutes. So I missed the entire last 10 minutes of game time of the game, and no Wi-Fi. So I can't do anything. I'm just sitting there like raw dogging this flight,
But you're feeling good. You gotta be feeling like,
they had the momentum. UConn did for sure at that point, but I was feeling pretty decent. You know what I mean? I was like, and a big part of that is because I was like, UConn, I know they probably best coach in the game right now, but I was like, this wasn't like a particularly special UConn team compared to previous years. So I was like,
no,
I thought Duke was the better team going into the game. They should win the game. I still think they're the better team. It was obviously only one game, so it happens. That's just how March Madness works, not making excuses or anything like that. But yeah, so then the Wi-Fi finally comes back on and my phone is just buzzing like crazy, just all the notifications flying in, whether it be just from like sports apps like ESPN or people texting me. So I'm like, all right, let's see what happened. And yeah, so I quickly found out how it ended. And to be honest with you, I think it was for the best. I think part of the devastation of sports in those moments is actually living the single moment. And having not actually lived it and just seeing the replay when I like when I knew, yeah, it's like I knew I Duke had the ball up 3 and I'm watching the replay and I'm like, well, I know UConn's gonna get the ball. And then when Braylon Mullen shot the shot, I was like, well, I know it goes in. So I'm sitting there like, it's just not quite as heartbreaking as it would have been if I'd watched it live. And that's probably the biggest Duke game in the last 15 years that, if not more, that I haven't watched live on that kind of setting. So, but obviously it was out of my control. But yeah, so, you know, it could have been a lot. Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. I was more disappointed that the season was over than I was about how it happened, just because, like I said, I didn't like live the exact moment and experience it. But I can only imagine how devastated I would have been. But I actually kind of feel the same that I did to Duke last year, which obviously arguably equally as bad of a loss last year.
But close.
It's pretty bad. They're up 7 with like a minute left. But the point is, I was less upset about like how it happened and more that like last year's Duke team felt like one of the best Duke teams in the last 20 years. This year's Duke team, I mean, hard to not feel at least a little bit the same. It kind of didn't quite feel like they were as good as the flag team, but still like hard to argue with only 2 losses. One was a buzzer beater and one was a 1-point loss on both the top 20 teams. But I'm more sitting here disappointed, like, man, like you don't get teams that good that often. And you really got to take advantage and win it.
You did last year. When you look back at how good Con Knuppel is in the pros,
he's so
and how
good
Flag is, but how good Knuppel is, like you literally have 2.
But that's what I'm saying. I know.
Yeah, you're going to look back at that team, the 2025 team, 24-25 team. If Knuppel and Flag have the careers that they're projected to have, they're going to be sitting there going, how the hell did you not win a national championship with those 2 guys there? Plus other guys. It wasn't just those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Malik was there. Right? You had it was a deep, good
stacked team. But that's what I'm saying. So last year I was so bummed because I was like, man, we're not going to have a team that good again for a long time, probably. And then this year, results wise, they were as good. I still feel like the 25 team was a little bit better, but
they're better.
So then
25 teams. Boozer's going to be a good pro, but they're better.
Yeah, my only thing I'll say is that they were quite banged up down late in the season this year. Like Foster had broken his foot 2 weeks. Like he played 2 weeks after a broken foot, like bone in his foot, and then and Gungba had been banged up for a while. So again, I'm not saying that to make excuses for the loss. I'm more saying to give context to like they haven't looked as good recently, and I think that's more why. But yeah, we don't have the top of the class generational guy coming in next season. So that's why it's more of a bummer, because I'm like, to get 2 of those guys back to back and not be able to capitalize with good teams around them is just a bummer. But we'll see. I'll take Michigan by 15 though.
I'm a UConn alum. I am. So I mean, watching that game was incredible. I turned it off with 4 minutes to go in halftime, then put it back on. And it was still going, Duke was still dominating, so turn it back off. I put it back on with like 15 minutes to go, 14 minutes, and then watched them go in, and it was amazing for a UConn fan. And then I have no idea why UConn was underdog last night. They already beat Illinois by 11, 12 points. Like, they're a better team than Illinois, and they beat Illinois. But I do agree with you. I don't think UConn wins or survives and wins the national championship. Michigan reminds me of the 2023 Huskies. 23-24, where they came in and just dominated the field. So that's who the Huskies
90 in every game so far.
Yeah. But Dan Hurley is Dan Hurley for a reason. He is the best coach in basketball, bar none. If anyone's going to have them ready to play, and they're not going to at least give up the way Arizona gave up last night, it's UConn. Again, even as a UConn alum, I'm happy they made it this far, because they did not have that good of a team this year. I don't think so. Yep. I mean, a good team, but not
solid team, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think if Duke and UConn played 7 times, Duke probably wins at least 4. But like, it is what it is. That is the nature of March Madness, and Duke's won games that they shouldn't have.
But that's what Hurley does. Hurley took Florida they actually should have beaten Florida last year, and Florida won the national championship. They actually took Florida to the wire. Should have beaten Florida. I forgot how they lost. I don't want to remember, but they lost to Florida.
I feel like it was I think if I recall correctly, they were
last
up,
second shot.
They were up like 10 for most of the game, and then Florida just kind of chipped away. It wasn't some big choke or some big run, if I recall. It was kind of like 2 minutes later they're only down 7. 2 minutes later they're only down 5. It was just kind of chip away, and then they took the lead late. I don't think it was a buzzer beater. If I recall, I think UConn hit a buzzer beater
to go to overtime.
They were down 4, so it didn't matter, and then they lost by 1.
Anyways, so again, it's Hurley being Hurley. I think UConn has a really good shot to at least make this game a competitive game tomorrow.
Agreed.
Would I be surprised to get blown up by 15? I also wouldn't be surprised to get blown up by 15 either.
I'll say this, the 15, I think it's going to be more one of those, like, it's close for most of the game, and then Michigan pulls away late. So I think it'll be mostly competitive, and I do agree with you that, like, I don't think UConn's going to roll over by any means. But I just think Michigan is, like, a sizably better team than UConn, which is just, it's going to be hard to overcome. But we'll see. You know, they're banged up. Lendeborg went down, and who knows
I don't know if he's going to be able to play.
Be at. They said he is, but he's going to be compromised for sure. Yeah.
I mean, look, yesterday it's fine. The swellingness hasn't kicked in. He is going to, that thing's going to blow up like a balloon.
I think they said he's got like an MCL injury and an ankle injury or something.
Yes, it was both.
Stuff.
The replay looked terrible when he stepped on the guy's foot. His knee and ankle went two different ways. All right, Sean, but this is a baseball show. Even though it's good to talk about that one, we got to make it a baseball show. Might be hard.
And we'll talk about this stupid team.
But we got to do what we do every episode, and go ahead and drink some beers.
Drinking beers, we drink some beers. Drink John and Sean. We're drinking beers, we drink some beers.
Troll you during that segment. Give you a little bit of husky action on my Frost buddy. Sean, what's your beer for today, though?
I have a repeat today. And, you know, part of that was that the Red Sox did not deserve a new beer from me today.
I like that. That's good.
And I had one left over from the past, this Peloton, which is Crank Arm Brewing.
I remember when you had that.
Yeah, this is a North Carolina one. My dad brought down when he visited a few weeks back. But yeah, I think this is more of a West Coast IPA, which is, again, a little atypical for me. But like I said, Red Sox do not deserve me to go all the way to the bottle shop to get a fresh beer for them.
I've had back east before from the brewing company. This is called Lost Compass. Okay. I went with an India Pale Ale, just like you would.
Nice.
I don't know. I had never tried it before. I'm assuming it's a New England style pale ale. What's the difference again, Sean, between the two?
The West Coast tend to be a lot more bitter. And also from a visual standpoint, the New England ones are like they're more opaque, if you will. So they're like lighter color and hard to see through, versus the West Coast is more translucent or transparent, if you will, like a typical how a beer would look. And they're more on the darker brown side, versus New England would be like a lighter yellowish color.
This is definitely New England too. Okay. And New England's more hoppy too, right? Is it more hoppy?
I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because West Coast is, I would say West Coast could be more hoppy, honestly, because they're the more like kind of just super, super bitter ones, versus New England's got a little bit more flavor, I would say, and can be a little smoother, which is why I like that.
So this one's definitely not, it's more like yellowish translucent than it is the brown. So it's got to be New England style that I'm assuming. Let's see.
Yeah.
That's good. I feel like all New England IPAs though tastes very similar. When you have a good, because you're more of an IPA drinker than I am, Sean. When you have a good New England IPA and a bad New England IPA, how can you tell the difference? Like what's the taste profile for them? Like, oh, this is terrible, or oh, this is good. Because to me, all IPAs, all New England style IPAs taste pretty much the same.
Yeah, I'll say this. I feel like I'll preface, like, I think a bad New England style one is still pretty good, which is like why it's my favorite one, obviously. But to me, when they taste, there's like a baseline taste for most of them. And the bad ones like all kind of taste like that baseline taste, if that makes sense. Like there's just not a uniqueness to them a little bit, if that makes sense. Versus the ones that taste super good. I think also they go down a lot smoother.
Ooh.
That could
be trouble.
Well, exactly. But yeah, I would say that's the main thing. A little bit of uniqueness and flavor, and then the smoothness in which they go down. That's at least my 2 cents on it. And like I think I like the more juicy ones too. And the hazier and the juicier, the better for me. So, but I don't mean the ones that like taste like literal juice. The ones that are just like have that kind of like, I'm doing a bad job describing it, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Well, I almost picked up, I know how much you like the juicy ones. I almost grabbed a juicy one for today, but I went with this Back East one just because I trust Back East. It's a good IPA. That's what I'm trying to figure out, though, if I ever had a bad IPA. And maybe to your point, because New England IPA flavor profiles are pretty much all the same, it's hard to get a bad one. They're all, even a bad one's still good. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe that's the reason why I kind of like them too, just not the same as you. I don't have the same passion for them as you do, but they're good. All right. This is our first episode since opening day. Well, we did our last show, last pod right before opening day. And so this is our first one. So what's happened since our over-under predictions? Well, Sean, in case you didn't know, which you do, but in case
A lot of unders.
you didn't know, a lot of unders, they have now started the season 2-7. They opened with a 3-0 shutout win versus Cincinnati behind Crochet. We all were feeling good about ourselves. Like, okay, here we go. This is the team. Got off to a hot start. They're going to meet expectations. When Crochet, Whitlock, Chapman, the way a win should look. And then they dropped 5 straight. They won the Fenway home opener Friday, 5-2 versus San Diego, and then lost again on Saturday, 3-2, and then lost today as well, 8-6 to go to 2-7. The game in Houston, those games in Houston were utterly pathetic, absolutely pathetic. The offense has been absolutely anemic. Garrett Crochet said after the Astros loss, it's embarrassing. You heard Roman Anthony today after the loss to the Padres, also echoing those words, saying the fans deserve better, and they do. These are expensive tickets, right? Season ticket holders like myself, this is why we get so upset with the Red Sox, because we have a very high investment in Red Sox baseball. This is not Colorado Rockies in Coors Stadium where you're paying $5 for rock pile seats. We're paying a premium to watch a game, so we expect the product to be a premium, and we're not getting that. I'm going to give you quick offensive numbers, Sean, and then just tell me how you're feeling right now. So coming into this today, not including today, they had team batting average of 208. It's the bottom 5 in MLB. Their K rate is 29.4%, fourth worst. Whiff rate, 32.7%, third worst. 32.7% is god awful. If a player on the team had a 32.7% whiff rate, you're making the argument they shouldn't even be in the majors. But this is the whole team at 32.7%.
Yep.
They scored about 22 runs scored in 8 games, bottom third. 6 errors in 6 games, among the worst. Most errors in Major League Baseball since 2018. We'll go back to that one because that's supposed to be the defensive run saved Red Sox in 2026. And then home runs, again, this is through the 2-6 start, 6 through 6 games played, 3 from Abreu alone. It can't get much worse than this, Sean.
Yeah, you called out the Houston series, which I was traveling over last weekend, so I was following the scores, but hadn't had a lot of opportunity to like sit down and watch a full game start to finish. So I was pumped on Monday. Sat down on the couch, watched a little bit of the pregame show, watched a full 9 innings. Did the same thing the following day on Tuesday. And so the first 2 games I watched start to finish were the first 2 Astros games. And I was like, I just spent 5 hours watching absolute dog shit baseball in every possible facet of the game. I mean, the pitching has been terrible. The offense is not only what we thought it was, but maybe even worse. They're batting the ball around despite on paper, the defense should be decent, base running mistakes, some questionable managerial decisions. Like it really, I know they're 2-7, but like sometimes 2-7 doesn't tell the full story. So far, I think it is accurately telling the full story. Like they have been that bad. It feels like if you just like had no scoreboard in front of you the whole time and weren't counting runs, but just watched the games and I made you guess what their record was, you'd probably say 2-7. Like it's somewhere in that ballpark, just the eye test alone. And yeah, maybe even 1-8. And then all the numbers back it up. So it really has been, I mean, they have the worst record in major leagues right now. They're alone in last place in the major leagues in terms of record right now. Like worse record than the Rockies, like the White Sox, all those teams. Like I know it is early and I'll continue to say that on this podcast. Like it is early, but like, I'm sorry. Like it'd be different if they had played, started the season 30-25 and then had this stretch, because you've got a 55 game sample right there of them being above 500 team. This is the only sample we have. So any projection for them to get better is simply that, just a projection. There's no proof or sample size to look back on and say like, well, this is just a cold streak. And of course, do I think part of like a lot of this is cold streak? Yeah. Like, do I think that the offense is going to struggle as much as it has? No. Do I think the pitching is going to be as bad as it's been? No. But it doesn't mean that this is just some complete throw it out the window type stretch here. Like a lot of the concerns that we had coming into the seasons are the exact things that they're struggling with. So it's different if the Dodgers start 2-7 because you're like, okay, well, a lot of the reasons they're 2-7 are because complete outlier performances. Like, we know what these guys bring to the table. That's not the case with this. We came into this year thinking, wow, they really don't have that much or power. They're middle of the pack in home runs. We came into the year saying, wow, they have too many guys that strike out. Well, they've been atrocious in terms of being able to put the ball in play. We came into the year saying, like, who's going to be the consistent guy on the offense that is, generating runs and putting pressure on pitching? It's been Wilyer Brady, but that's about it. Nobody else really has done anything. You mentioned the error thing. Like, they've been a consistently bad defensive team for like over half a decade now. Like, that's not, I know on paper, it seems like we should be good on defense, but I can't sit here and say like, wow, it's kind of weird we've been bad on defense. Like, it's not weird. They've just been a bad defensive team. And so that's the thing that worries me is like all of the, at least most, some of the pitching I think might regress back to where it needs to be. But a lot of the issues they're having are issues that we could have foreseen. And we did talk about throughout all of the offseason. So to me, that's why I'm not sitting here having this like, oh, I'm not worried. Like, they're going to figure it out. Because like they might get a little better, but I'm not positive that they can 180 this thing and be like a top 10 offense all of a sudden.
We said that we thought Chapman was going to regress. So far in the games he's pitched, he's blown a save already. And even in the games he's pitched well enough. He's a good closer. Yeah, he's
the least of my worries, is what I would say.
I agree with you. He's the least of my worries too. But we said he's going to regress, and it's not like what we got out of him last year. Don't expect this year. And we both said that that's going to happen. We both were very much concerned about Trevor Story, both of us. And Trevor Story has been an absolute nightmare. We talked about one of the earlier pods where Alex Cora said he's going to bat him second because he's earned the right to bat after last year to bat him second. Okay, when does he earn the right to no longer bat second? When does he take himself out of the second hole? Because he has been atrocious. In the field, atrocious. And at the plate, atrocious. He was error in Houston, that big error that he had that left the floodgates open. They lost, I think it was a crochet game. Literally just went right through his glove. Right. And they had the lead in that game, and he goes right through his glove. And I think a run or two scored. They ended up losing that game. He was over 5 with 3 strikeouts in Houston. Played terrible yesterday. Played terrible today. Consistently striking out, coming up with opportunities to be able to breathe some life in this team. He's going to kill him batting second. This Trevor Story looks like Trevor Story. They got him. He looks awful. Looks absolutely awful. Boom him down. For context, get some confidence on him.
Yeah, for context on Story, he got an infield hit today. That was his 5th hit of the season. Before he got that hit, which again, not some big extra base hit or anything like that. He had 4 hits on the season. That is, he has 16 strikeouts on the season. So 4 times as many strikeouts as hits. And guess how many times he's walked? Would you like to take a guess?
Story has walked 1 time?
0 times. 0 walks on the
I've
season.
watched all the games. I'm trying to think, did he walk 1 time? I know I've watched him come up and strike out a plethora of times. Yeah, he's been atrocious. 16
strikeouts, and I'll give him a single today. 5 times he's even reached base. That is just like, I don't care if all 5 of those, the only way that's even like remotely respectable is if all 5 of those are home runs. Like, actually, like you can't play like that. With you just you're not a threat at all to walk. You are basically gonna strike out every 3rd or 4th time at the plate, and then you are not even able to really do anything when you do hit the ball. It's been a lot of soft contact. I know he's got 1 homer or something like that, I think, but he's just been so bad. And then you compound it with the defense, like you mentioned, where it's like he's been such a negative to the team in like every aspect.
Yeah, everyone has. Defensively, this is my problem with Cora, and I'm a huge Cora apologist. I have stuck by Cora for years. For years, I'm starting to go south on him only because this is 2 years in a row where the team is not ready to play baseball. This is 2 years in a row where this is supposed to be a defensive run-saved Red Sox, and they're not able to. They look not ready to play ball. Rafaela, sit down. Rafaela looks terrible in the outfield. Dropped a ball in the sun, and then yesterday,
got negative defensive numbers right now.
Well, that ball with Tatis, the double that started against Chapman.
Yeah.
65% chance he should have caught that ball. People looked at like, oh, it was over his head. He took the wrong angle at the ball. It was going to be a hell of a catch if he caught it, but he took the wrong angle. Had he more veered at a 45 instead of like a 90, whatever he did not see how fast that ball, the exit velocity was coming off Tatis's bat. But he had every right to catch that ball, misplayed it, lose the game because of it. Angel Suarez today throws that ball away to the first baseman, to Contreras, and the guys go to second and third. And then I think that's when Weissert came in, the home home run was given up, or maybe not. Actually, it was a base hit, 2 runs scored. But again, and Rangers Warriors had 2 great plays earlier than that in the inning
double
before.
play was good.
Yeah, phenomenal. But again, this is not consistent, mental lapse. This is Cora supposed to get this team ready, and for 2 years in a row, the team's not ready to play baseball. I get what you said about the Dodgers. If they start off 2-7, it'd be fine because of the pedigree. The Dodgers don't start off 2-7. The Yankees don't start off 2-7. Good
Well,
teams
Yankees are
ready to
always
play.
their best baseball at the beginning of the year, which is kind of
They're
funny.
ready to go. You can knock
crumble
all
late,
you want
but-
on it. No, you can knock them all you want, but they're ready to go to start the season. They don't start slow. And the Red Sox start slow every year. And the games in March and April count just as much as the games in September and October. If we lose the division by 5 games, or we make the wild card and don't have home field advantage, which killed us last year, this is why. You'll look back to these series and say, too little, too late across the year. They got a 1 year they got to start. I think in 21, when we made the playoffs and had that deep run, I believe that was the last time we actually we started off the year really good. Surprisingly good start. We've not done it since. And that's what's frustrating about this team.
We can talk about blame, I think, towards the end a little bit in terms of like who's the main culprit here. But like I definitely think Cora hasn't been his best this year, but I'm still not putting all this on him because at the end of the day, like the team's batting 167 with runners in scoring position, which is 29th in the majors. Like I can't say like that's not Cora's fault. These guys just aren't coming up when they need to come up. And for context there, it's not just that they're not getting hits. They have 21 strikeouts in those situations, which is only 9th in baseball. But every single team ahead of them has at least 12 more at bats in those situations. So their K rate with runners in scoring position is 39%. So two out of 5 times they're striking out when there's guys in scoring position. Like that, you could almost boil down the season to that right there so far. Like if that's even, half the strikeouts there, which is a huge cut, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, even just like we talked about like situational baseball, and this team isn't able to play it because they can't put the ball in play. We saw like I think Marcelo had like a nice sac fly on Friday it was, or something like that, with a guy on third. And I was like, man, we don't get a lot of stuff like that even, where
Felt
it's
like
like
a home
productive
run.
outs. I know. I was like, wow,
Felt
good
like
job.
a home run. Yeah.
It's like we can't get any of that to fall our way. It feels like every time there's guys up. And again, I went back to what I was saying earlier, like this is exactly how we felt at the end of season last year. So I can't sit here and say like, 167, that's a fluke. Like they'll turn it around there. It's like, I don't know if they will, because it was the same issue last year. Like the sample size says that they are just a bad hitting team with runners in scoring position. And look, that can be okay. And you can be a team that's successful when you don't get a lot of hits in those situations, but you have to then score via the home run, which, they've got 8 so far this season. That's 14 after today. That's 14th, basically exactly league average there. So not terrible compared to maybe where we thought they'd be, but you can't have league average power alongside just striking out like crazy and not being able to hit with guys and runners or with guys in scoring position. Like you have to do one or the other really well, or else you're just not going to be a good offense. And that's just kind of what it boils down to.
But everything we talked about in the offseason that we knew was an issue with the Red Sox, and Craig had the ability to go out there and fix it and make it right. He's not been able to do. We're living 2020. We watched it in Cincinnati in the extra inning game. I think Duran got up. I'm like, this is 2025 Duran all over again. He strikes out on with a man on second base. Or maybe it was Story. It might have been Story. This team cannot put the bat in the ball. Same problem they had last year. Same problem that they have this year. It's frustrating to watch this team go through this right now, knowing that this could have been fixed in the offseason. We could go a lot of different directions on how they could have fixed it for very cheaply. I mean, like you said, at least being a Chicago White Sox fan right now, watching Murakami is a lot of fun. He's like a 70 home run pace. We could have had Murakami for nothing. And just, there's a lot of ways we can go with this one. There's a lot of places we can spend the money and elsewhere. But the fact that we sit here today, to your point, this team's unable to put the bat on the ball. They're living the same exact problems they were living last year. And here's the biggest. Sean, think about it this way. And so as much as I'm upset with Cora, I'll put this one back on Breslow on top of it. They pinch hit for Durbin, and they pinch hit yesterday for Duran, who's their number three in the lineup. Tell me any other team out there in Major League Baseball where the manager is going to pinch hit for your number 3 hitter. Or let me ask you this, Sean, not to bring up old salt in the wounds, if Alex Bregman is batting there, no matter how bad of a season he has, Core's not pinch hitting for him.
No.
Core's not pinch hitting for Pete Alonso, right? Core is not pinch hitting for Murakami. Core is not pinch hitting for, give me another big free agent from this year. Give me another guy.
Bo Bichette.
Not pinch hitting for Bo Bichette. And that's the microcosm to start. Like, if you want to look at this season right now in a nutshell and take like a 5,000-foot view back and say what's wrong with this season, the fact that, and Cora had to do it. I have no problem with Cora doing it, but the fact
I have
that
no problem with them doing it either. Yeah.
No, the fact that the fact that the lineup is constructed where he hits a pinch hit for your number 3 batter and for your Bregman replacement is everything that I'm very worried about the 2026 Red Sox.
Yeah, and they had to lose the DH yesterday because of realignment and stuff like that, and that goes back to the lineup imbalance where like the only way they could make the defensive sub was to move the guy that like Roman had been DHing. He goes to left and you pinch hit for. So it's like all that stuff comes back to like the roster construction just like isn't where it needs to be. And it wasn't. And we said it all off season. And I think you started to get a little positive towards the end of the offseason, I will say. But I was still, I feel like I was trying to hold my ground and level set a little bit. But it is just so, to your point, like Murakami, it's like, what were the cons on him? Like, oh, he can't hit the ball and play, strikes out a lot. I'm like, well, so does the rest of the team, except they don't hit home runs. And so it's like, at least he hits home runs. I know like Eugenio Suarez has been, or Eugenio Suarez has been bad this year, but it's like same thing. Why did they not want him? Because he doesn't strike out, et cetera. I'm like, well, yeah, neither does anyone else, and at least he hits home runs. So I'm not saying I wanted to sign Suarez or anything like that. I'm just saying like
I did.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I said at least he gives you a puncher's chance. I'm like, he gives you a punch. He did against the Red Sox. He gives you a shot. Right now, Trevor Story does not give you a shot to win a game. And what's making it even more, and this is why I think the team's struggling even more so, is that was Bregman's spot. And you could say we could knock Bregman for the second half of last year and his inability to hit for power, even though he did the first half. At least he put the ball in play and was a good contact hitter. There have been opportunities where Story's come up and could have either won the game or blown it open, and he's completely just choked and struck it out.
Yep. I mean, to your point, Bregman, at the very least, even when he's struggling, commands a strike zone. And I think Roman has struck out a little bit more than we're accustomed to, but he's really the only guy in the lineup, him and Yoshida, that you feel like can really command the strike zone. I mean, and that's been actually the biggest issue for them is that let me pull up some of these stats. They collectively have a 62% zone swing rate, which means like strikes that they're swinging at in the zone, which is 28th. So they're not swinging at strikes. And then they have a 33.3% chase rate. So out of the zone. And that's 25th worst. So they are both. It's not like they're just swinging at everything or they're swinging at nothing. They are not swinging at strikes and they are swinging at balls. And it's like, you cannot have that. And we have a lot of bad culprits for that. Like Story is the second percentile with a 51.2% chase rate. That means if you throw a ball, there's a better chance he swings at it than not swinging at it. That's absurd. And then that's the exact same number that Rafaela has, 51.2%. So those two guys, just if you throw them a ball every single time, statistically, they'll strike out still, which is insane to say out loud.
Yeah, it is. It is.
44% whiff rate for Rafaela. That's second percentile. 6th percent strikeout rate for Story. That's 40.5%. Like I said, he has not walked yet. Rafaela has not walked yet. Those two in particular have just absolutely been lineup killers. I know Rafael's got like a 280 average, but I throw that out the window. I don't care because his at-bats aren't productive more often than not. None of this is mentioned Caleb Durbin, who's 2 for 28 on the year. You know what his barrel rate is just on the season?
I saw the baseball savant stat. It's
0%.
I mean, everything. Everything.
It's not 0th percentile. It is 0%. He has not hit a barrel yet this season. 4th percent bat speed, 26% exit velocity, these are percentile, 37 percentile hard hit rate. The guy can't hit the ball, and then when he hits it, it's always soft contact. He was pretty good as a contact guy last year. His strikeout percentage is like way up from what it was in years past. And so I don't know. It's just like so inexplainable with a lot of these guys. It's like even Roman, his K rate is way up from what it was in previous seasons. And, he's only batting 235. And he had that one game against Houston where he strike out 3 strikeouts on 9 pitches. And he's just watching stuff go down the middle. The overall approach for the team, I don't understand. They're not being aggressive when they get good pitches and they're swinging at a bunch of garbage.
And Roman Anthony, his barrel percentage, his exit velocity is great.
Yeah, exactly. But the approach has been bad. That's what I'm saying. When he hits it, it's been good
for him. Right, I mean, it's a
Exactly.
small sample size, but last year he was
Totally.
great at it. World Baseball Classic, he was great at it. Here's the other thing I'm worried about him, even though he is doing a great job with exit velocity and barreling up the ball. Go look at his spray chart and his base hits that he has. I don't understand why. I know you can't really shift. If I'm the second baseman or the first baseman, I'm moving them. Second baseman moving toward the first base side, first base more to the second base side. He's putting
Yeah.
everything in that hole right there. He has, let alone base hits, he's got no balls, outs, or base hits opposite field at all. He has some slight up the middle, but he's pulled everything through that hole. You just stick the second baseman over about 5 feet, and he's gonna be terrible. A lot of ground ball outs to second baseman. There's that. Yeah, Durbin's a whole nother. And here's my point with Durbin. I watched on Twitter too. I don't get why people think he's going to be good. He had a small sample size last year, and everyone points to about a month and a half portion of the year where he had like an 8-something OPS. John, you know what we call that? We call that a hot streak. Everyone goes through it. I watched JBJ go through it, right? Just because he had a very good small sample size does not mean this guy is ever going to be some type of Dustin Pedroia all-star or a Bregman replacement. There is no guarantee. I don't understand why people think Durbin's the real deal at all, based on a very, very small sample size. And don't throw at me that he finished third in the National League Rookie of the Year. That's meaningless if your competition is not good. He'd finish 6th or 7th if it was in the American League. If it was combined, he would not even be top. So I don't even know where all this love for Durbin's coming from for it. I don't see anything in his game that says he's a major leaguer as of right now. And for just because and I could give you guys like Marty Cordova and Bob Hamlin who have won Rookie of the Year and then went on to do nothing. Hence their names,
Chris Coughlin.
Marty Cordova and Chris Coughlin. These are guys that you don't even remember anymore. So again, throwing that stat at me about Rookie of the Year is a meaningless stat as well.
And he didn't even win it. No, I think he's a major.
Third. And like how is that like third? And like that means to be good.
I think he's a major leaguer, but I love him for the IKF role. You know, as a guy that can fill in here and there, second and third. You know, he at least in theory can be a good contact guy, and you know, he's been good defensively so far. But yeah, to your point, to think that he was supposed to come in and be this like. I mean, wasn't there some stat that, like, if he had played at all his games in Fenway last year, he would have had, like, 5 home runs or something like that? It was some really, really low number. I know he pulls the ball a lot, but it's just, like, I don't know. He's been a mess, and I do think a little core pinch hitting for him was a little bit of an FU to Craig, which I don't blame him, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's been really bad. And you know, like we mentioned, Abreu's really been like the only guy that we can count on right now. And he's been red hot, obviously. So like, I want to give Willier all the love and all of his flowers, and 2 for 6 versus lefties this year. So he's getting more at bats and he's performed in those situations as well. 429 average, 3 homers. But like outside of him, I don't have this stat in front of me, but I would love to see the combined batting average and home runs for everyone aside from Willier, because I bet he has more than half our hits on the season, honestly. Like even Contreras, 167 average, Duran, 207 average. Narvaez is batting 333, but he hasn't started every day. Yoshida got a big hit today, but he's still only 231, but I don't put too much on him because he's only got 13 at-bats in 7 games. Hard to get in a groove. And
yeah, but he's at least been getting on base. Right, he walked like 4 times in a row.
He has an 859 OPS despite a 231.
He's
average.
walked
so like he's
a
been
bunch.
solid.
I mean,
you and I are in agreement that like Yoshida's actually like one of our best hitters, probably. So
yeah, I love Yoshida on the right team. Like he just doesn't fit for this team, but like on a team like the Dodgers, he would be an all-star, like an all-star type player on the team, just for what he brings. We just don't have anyone that can make him look good. So he's you know, he gets exposed for the fact that he can't hit home runs or play good defense. But again, I mean, look, we're going to knock him for his defense. Romans looked terrible out in left field.
Yeah.
Can't throw, has had a hard time getting to balls, and I don't know what you do. When do you work on it? Like, when's he going to be? The season started. His opportunity to be able to get better at it.
The good thing is, theoretically, they don't need to work on it because he could just be our full-time DH.
Yeah, but at that age.
The way the roster is. No, I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying that, like, it's not like, oh, how are we going to get him in the lineup? It's like, well, there's an open spot for him at DH if he needs it. But to your point, I mean, it's the 9th game of the season, and I look up at the lineup card, and Yoshida is starting in left, and Roman's DHing. I'm like,
What world?
Did not have that.
What world are we in right
Yeah, I didn't have that on my bingo card unless there was like
No.
something that happened where I'm like, Yoshida, given the fact that we have 4, at least on paper, like average to above average fielding outfielders on the roster, I didn't think he was going to touch the outfield unless there was injuries. So for us to have all those guys healthy and he's still starting and left is kind of crazy. Like I don't know if that was just Cora trying to get Roman off his feet a little bit, or if he genuinely thought Yoshida gave us a better chance with him and left. I hope it's not the latter, but it might be based on what we've seen so far with the throwing, which is weird because last year he looked so solid out there. He was well above
I know
average.
he did.
When Willier was out, he played a great right field, both arm and range and whatnot. So it's honestly just confusing.
Well, that's why, and this is where I put it back on Cora. The team's not ready to play for whatever reason. Maybe the WBC hurt Roman. I don't know what it is, but the team is not ready to play. Suarez looked good for the first 3 innings, and the 4th inning fell apart. I watched the game, and a lot of it had to do with location. He kept throwing middle. I actually put a tweet out like, "Can you stop throwing middle?" I think he'll figure that part out, but it's not a good look. 8-something ERA, Weissert 10-something ERA, and then going back to the Durbin trade. I said on this pod, I'm a big Kyle Harrison fan. I actually doubled down when they traded him and bought a bunch of like very cheap but could be worth a lot of money baseball cards. Like some of them are like tops out of 25 printed autograph because I really believe Kyle Harrison is going to be an all-star. So I'm a big Harrison fan, and he goes again today. He goes 5 2/3, gives up 2 runs, I believe, which was a home run. He actually pitched very well, except for a Garcia home run. That coupled in with his last game where he gave a leadoff home run, only 1 run. Harrison's pitched very well. You look at this pitching rotation right now, they miss Harrison. They would love to have Harrison on this team. Look, Sonny Gray had a good bounce back start. I think we'll talk about the positive. Gray, Abreu's pitched well. Crochet pitched well in his first start. I know his second start didn't pitch as well. Whitlock has pitched well. There's been some bright spots, but Oviedo is going to be on the disabled list again. And so that one's a mind blower. Like when did that injury occur? At what point did that injury occur? Right? Early looks good too. But again, Oviedo, I mean, we would love right now to have Kyle Harrison on this team. And the team wouldn't have gotten any worse by not having Durbin on the team. You can make the argument with no Durbin, and don't check the stats in Worcester, Sean, but my favorite, the guy I wanted to make the team, Nick Sogard, is playing very well down in Worcester. And if Sogard or Nate Eaton, who you liked, was on this team and we kept Harrison, as of right now, this team would be a better team.
I'm not losing too much. I mean, look, I think the Harrison trade has a chance to look bad in retrospect, but for this group, I'm not sitting here like, man, I wish we had Harrison in the rotation, because like, who are you bumping right now? Who are you bumping? It's like, I don't think you can bump anyone right now, because like Early would be the obvious candidate, but he's been this like probably the best pitcher so far.
Right.
But the point is, the underrated part of all this, which I think we should pivot to a little bit, is the pitching has been really bad too. They have a 4.71 ERA as a team that's 23rd in baseball. Their starter ERA, which we talked about how good their starting rotation could be, 5.19. The only teams worse: Rangers, Rockies, A's, Nationals, White Sox. The bullpen ERA I'm not too worried about. It's 4.11, but it was 3.6. It was 3.6 coming into today. And they obviously didn't do well today. And yeah, it's really just the one Oviedo outing and then Weissert. The rest of the bullpen guys have been fine across the board, so I'm not really worried about that. But concerning stat for me, the average starting pitching innings pitched per game is 4.8.
Yeah. Early struggled.
6.0.
Suarez.
Yeah, 6.0, 4.0, 5.1, 4.1, 4.2, 5.0, 6.0, 4.0, 4.0. So we have not had anybody get to the 7th inning. We've only had 2 total starts with guys making at least 6 innings. And we've had more not even getting to 5 than we have getting to 5. So like, that's been a huge issue for them. And if we go down the line, like, I'm not worried about Crochet. I know he got roughed up last time. Like, that's back to my Dodgers argument of like, well, okay, he had a bad start, but I don't really care because I know he's good and I know what we're going to get out of him. Early's been easily the next best after Crochet, maybe even better than him to this part. So that's encouraging. And I think Gray had a really nice bounce back in the last game. So I'm not really worried about him, but consider me definitely officially worried about Ranger Suarez. I will say that he's looked bad in both starts. 8.64 ERA. We talked about he doesn't have the blow you away stuff. He's not a big strikeout guy, but he pitches to soft contact. Last year he was 98th% in hard hit rate. This year he's 37th percentile. Last year he
He's
was
leaving the
89
ball down the middle of the plate. Watch the game. Like,
Yeah.
I'm hoping he figures
I
out the
know.
control, but he's literally leaving it down the middle of the plate, middle. So I hope he figures
Yep.
it out. I agree. Again, this is why I'm going on record saying Craig Breslow might be the worst front office manager of all time. Craig is the same guy that if he had his druthers last year, we'd have Walker Buehler on this team for a 3-year deal. Bueller's the one that turned down the 3-year deal because he wanted to bet on himself, which was a bad move by Buehler. But we'd have
Yep.
Buehler. I have no confidence that Craig Breslow knows how to scout free agents. He's done a great job in the draft, don't get me wrong. But from a free agent perspective, signing free agents and trading for guys. He just, Suarez, and to our point, that wasn't our biggest concern coming into the year. Our over-under, Sean, that we talked about was innings pitched. And it had nothing to do with his performance, but whether or not he could stay healthy.
Yeah.
And so maybe where Harrison can come in. I mean, they had Tyler Ubenstein come in today and start and pitch in relief. Maybe Harrison can at least be in the bullpen for that. I hear everything you're saying. But you're watching that. You're watching James Tibbs go on a Barry Bond-esque run in AAA. And let's not
7 homers in 8 games.
What's 8 homers for Dustin May? And we gave him up. Who is a first-round pick?
Who, by the
13th
way,
overall.
leads the majors in earned runs so far.
Oh,
Dustin
yeah.
May.
His St. Louis game was, I think he had 11 runs in three innings. I have a good friend of mine who's a Cardinals fan. I texted him, like, yeah, we dealt with him last year. But we could have kept Tibbs. Like, there are trades when we look back. I don't know if people are so, whatever the hell they're drinking to block out and try to be pro Craig or pro team. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. They were yelling, sell the team today at Fenway Park, which I'm glad the frustrations got to this point. I'm tired of people covering for Craig. The trades he has made for this team, they used to talk about when I was a kid, the Bagwell trade, trading Bagwell for Larry Anderson. Craig has done that like 5 or 6 times. Chris Sale for Vaughn Grissom, right? There have been a numerous amount of trades where it might come back to absolutely bite him. Tibbs might be one of them. Kyle Harrison might be one of them. I guess to your point, like, where would Harrison start? I have no idea. But
I think it's more the sentiment. It's less the like, oh man, we really need Harrison. It's more just like another trade with one of these small market teams where we look like the idiots. You know what I mean? And like, if you go down the line of they had 5 big, quote unquote, big offseason acquisitions. Johan Oviedo, who has a 9.82 ERA and is probably not going to see the field for weeks, if not months. Caleb Durbin, who is 2 for 28 on the year. Willson Contreras, who is batting 167 with only 1 homer so far. Ranger Suarez, who they gave $130 million to, who has a 8.64 ERA, and it just does not look like himself. And then Sonny Gray, who, 4.5 ERA, he's probably been the best by far. And I'm not worried about him, but he's the only one that's not been not just bad, but not a disaster. The other 4 guys are like, I think Contreras will bounce back a little bit, but the point is, like, the offseason looks awful, and it already didn't feel great coming into the season anyway. But I don't know. I personally put a lot more of the blame on Craig than I do Cora, for example, because
I do too. I'm frustrated with Cora, but I agree with you.
Yeah, but I think Cora's frustrated too is the thing. That's why, like, I don't totally blame him, because he's probably looking at this like pile of misfit toys he was given, and he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Like,
yeah, and he's the one that wanted Bregman. He's the one that brought Bregman in, and then he took Bregman away from him. And we're not going to go into it. We've done a bunch of podcasts about the Bregman, Devers, etc. But the Munetaka Murakami one, where the White Sox gave him 2 years for $34 million. I think he has an opt out. He has 4 home runs in his first 8 games, most home runs by a Japanese-born player in the first 8 games. The Red Sox would absolutely be loving to have Murakami on this team over Durbin, which you could have done. You could have signed Murakami to play third, kept Kyle Harrison. You could have spent, it wasn't that much money. You had the money to spend. Like, it wasn't like I'm asking you, you spent the money on IKF. I'm asking you a little bit more for Murakami. You could raise my ticket prices up an extra $15 if you want to. Murakami could have been on this team with that power. And I agree with you on Contreras, but we did talk about Contreras early on when the trade happened. There is a gigantic cliff that catchers fall off of after age like 34. He's at that one. I give an example like Brian McCann. I don't think that's going to be Contreras. I watched him make some pretty good contact, even in today's game too. He's still there, but it's frustrating when you put it all together. It's just frustrating. Sean,
I'm not.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, if of all the guys that we've acquired in the offseason, give me a guy that you're fine with, that you believe is going to go up and put up his career numbers, and give me a guy that we've acquired in the offseason that you think is danger zone and Craig made a mistake with.
I still feel most confident by far of Sonny Gray. Like when you say career, I don't know if he's gonna have a career year, for example, but I'm like, I think the floor on him is by far the highest. And I just think like he's going to be a solid 3 or 4 starter. Like I thought he looked really good on Friday when they won that game. And it was just, I mean, really the first start since the first couple games where I was like, felt pretty confident about the guy on the mound. And like, if we got a lead, we were going to keep it. So again, I wouldn't say career year, but I feel pretty good about where he's at. And, you know, his first start even wasn't like that bad. He just like, couldn't make it that far. I mean, I think he only gave up like 3 runs or something like that. But the guy I'm most worried about, to be honest with you, is Ranger Suarez. And to me,
more so than Durbin, more than Durbin.
Like, it depends how you're asking it. Because like we got Ranger Suarez for 5 years, man, at a lot of money. And all it takes is we could a year from now be saying like, oh my God, we have this albatross of a contract that we cannot get rid of. And we know the Red Sox aren't going to eat the money. And like we could just be fucked, like, and stuck with that for years. And like, he's like already kind of on the, like, what is he, 30 years old? He's at least on the wrong side of 30. And I don't know. If he can't locate, and of course it's 2 games, but I'll preface that. And we talked about this when we signed him. Like I was lower on the signing than you were. And he was someone that I was like, he wasn't one of my top 3 or even 4 choices for the Sox to add if they were going to add like a bigger name pitcher. And I just think his game, I don't know. I just would feel better if some of the underlying stats were a little better and there was like a room for him to decline a little and like a cushion there versus like his velocity is already so low. He's so reliant on like one specific thing to be effective. And if he's not doing that, then he's just throwing batting practice out there. And it's looked really bad so far. And I just am not totally convinced that he was worth close to that kind of money. And I think that the other guys, if Durbin doesn't pan out, whatever. I mean, he's on a probably sub-$1 million contract. We lose the trade. It is what it is. It was pretty inconsequential. You know, Harrison probably wasn't in the long-term plans anyway. And, you know, we could find someone replacement level as good as Durbin. But I just think Suarez could come back to haunt this team very much if he doesn't even half live up to this. Even if he's just like a 4.2 ERA guy for the next 3 years, like that's not good enough for what they signed him for. So I have concerns there.
How old were you when the Red Sox had John Lackey? Do you remember the Lackey years?
Yeah, for sure. Would they sign him in 2010, 2011 or something like that?
Very similar. It could be very similar to that. The difference between that Red Sox ownership, same ownership group, and I'm gonna call it the Fenway Sports Group now, but they've changed ever since they became FSG. Much different mentality of how they spend their money. At least with the Lackey years, they were willing to spend their way out of it. You know, with Lackey, they were willing to put the money and double down. They're not, to your point, they're not willing to do that anymore. And Lackey still ended up becoming a very important, I believe, piece in the 2013 championship.
Yeah,
he actually rebounded
for
every year, right? So after being an absolute bust. But you're right, Suarez could be very similar to Lackey. Lackey wasn't a hard-throwing pitcher, relied very much on 2-contact type player. So we could have with one of those guys too.
But at least Lackey was an innings eater. You know, he pitched through his prime, 204, 198, 209, 217, 224. Even his first year at the Red Sox, 215 innings. Like, he at least could eat innings. And I think at his peak with the Angels was like close to a true ace. I would say maybe a 1B or like a really, really strong number 2.
That's fair.
Which I don't think Suarez qualifies as that. No, he's never been
Suarez
that.
Has never been an ace.
Yeah. And so those are my concerns where I'm like, between the can't hit 150 innings, and if he loses even a little bit in terms of either his location or that velocity dips, even like if it goes any lower, it's going to be like in the 80s. And so it's just like, I don't know if there's a lot of examples of guys in the MLB today that are throwing 88 mile an hour fastballs that are effective. And so it's go ahead.
And he struggled in the WBC too, right? So this isn't just,
he did.
This isn't just a guy that's come in to the year and struggled for starts. No, he was pitching for, was it Venezuela? Pitching for Team Venezuela, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wasn't able, he was getting lit up with Venezuela. Yeah, there's a lot to be worried about with him. I'm hoping he figures it out. One more question though for you, Sean, and we'll wrap it up and I'll let you go where you want to go for the last segment. You were big on Duran entering the year because we needed to be, because they had other options. Are you worried? Is 2024 Duran an enigma? And 2025 Duran is more of the player we're going to get?
I mean, I think he's always been more likely to be 25 version of himself than 24 version of himself. But I will again remind you that the 25 version of himself was still a 4.7 WAR player, led the league in triples, 84 RBIs, 16 homers, played 157 games, above average defense in my opinion. Even though I know he has had some boneheaded decisions out there in the past, but like, I'll take that. And like I've said, this has been my reasoning behind it the whole time is like, look at this offense. If they traded him for pitching, think about they'd be even worse and they'd have even less upside than they have right now. So like the offense, just whether we like it or not, he's one of the 3 most important hitters in the lineup. I don't know if that says more about how bad the lineup is, but like that's the reality of the team right now. So like,
Yeah, it's unfair.
I don't. Yeah, it's like
it's unfair to him. He should be batting third. He should not.
Exactly.
Be batting third.
He's not your prototypical 3 hitter, but like that's what they need out of him. It is what it is. He should probably be 6th in a really good lineup or something like that. But like, then who's third for us? So like, I'm not totally out on Duran. I mean, like, again, I think he's kind of gotten the short end of the stick by Red Sox fans in general, just because, like, I don't know. The team and the roster construction is the bigger issue than him himself. And again, we could trade him midseason, but like, then that is another hole, another at least league average hitter out of the lineup. And then it's like, are we just starting Yoshida full time, I guess? I don't know. Then you've got no depth after. Yeah, but then you've got no depth
I want Yoshida full time.
Fair.
I hear you. I'm breaking your balls on this one. I agree with you.
That's fair.
Sean, wrap the show up. Last segment. Where do you want to go?
How about, do you think has what you've seen so far changed your outlook and opinion on what you think the destiny for the Red Sox is this season?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think they're going to carve themselves such a big hole that it's going to be very hard to come out of it. Do I think they can still make the playoffs? I do. I do still think they can make the playoffs. I'm still hopeful on that one. Win the division, I just don't see it happening now. They're going to find themselves down 2-7. There is no path that I'm looking at right now where I have hope that they're going to dig themselves out of this grave anytime soon. I think we're going to have a lot more rough patches ahead of us. I don't know when their next win's going to be. I'm hoping when Crochet starts again, maybe they can get that one.
Yeah.
They have the Brewers coming in, a very, very, very good team.
Yep.
The fact they lost to the Padres at home, took 2 out of 3 of them. They couldn't beat Cincinnati. They got swept by Houston. I just don't know when the end's in sight for them. I'll tell you what, though. I had that parlay with DraftKings where I have the Pirates winning the Central, and the Red Sox winning the East, and I guess the Dodgers winning the West. 3-team parlay. Pirates look really good. There's a lot to be excited. I almost want to become a Pirates fan. They're looking really good. They want to
Pirates
get
podcast instead.
Yeah, do a pirate. I mean, someone's got to do it. No one's doing Pirates podcasts out there. A lot to be happy. Like, I feel like maybe they are right now where we were last year with Connor Griffin and everything else. But again, we talked about it in the offseason, and I was very much impressed with Pittsburgh. And the reason why I like them so much is because they went out and got Brandon Lau, Ryan O'Hearn, and Marcell Ozuna. 3 guys who have proven themselves to hit 30-plus home runs. And I said, why couldn't the Reds?
Ozuna's been really
he's been
bad,
terrible.
But I hear you. I think it's one hit.
But O'Hearn, he's been really bad. But they took 3 flyers on guys, hoping that
I get it. Slow risk.
Lau's played very well. Yeah,
Lau's been great.
And Ryan O'Hearn's played very well. Both those guys are better than anything the Red Sox, except for Abreu. But I can make the point, Lau's been just as good as Abreu. And we had a second base issue. Right, Mayer could be playing third. We could have made a trade and got.
I'd much rather have Lau than Durbin, and I would have said that in the offseason too.
Yeah. So watch what Pittsburgh's done out there with their pitching staff, and now with their ability to go out there and take these guys. And they're a small market team, and they completely outmaneuvered the Red Sox, was a big market team, and they are a big market team. Don't let this knock on this Red Sox team not spending fool you. They're still spending a lot more money than the Pirates are, and the Pirates completely outclassed them this offseason. So I say all that. Your original question was, is my expectations lower? Yes, it is, because I think that they dug themselves such a huge hole. It's going to be very difficult to dig out of it, but I still think they could possibly be a playoff team. How about you, Sean? What do you think?
Yeah. To your point on the Pirates, this is why I wore my Braves hat today. I wanted to feel like a part of a winning group, First place, 6-3 for the Braves. I had my Sox hat on during the game, and I was like, I don't want to wear this anymore. So, but I do think, I mean, we talked about this last pod. I had them as a high 80s win team and a wild card team. Do I think they can still do that? Yes. I know we've said very little positive on here, but it is very early, and I think making any grandiose proclamations about any team right now is a mistake. Of course, you can have confirmation bias, but like if you're the Yankees, they're 7-1. It's like, can I sit here and be like, oh, yep, they're the best team in the AL? Like, probably not. Like, who knows? There's so much season left that like I don't know. A lot can change. We saw some even just last year with the Guardians passing the Tigers after what were they down like 15 games or something like that at one point. But I don't see the Sox doing anything like that just because, part of why the Guardians were able to come back the way they were is because the Tigers played awful for like 2 months. It was a dual thing that happened in parallel where the Indians were red hot, but the Tigers also completely collapsed. The AL East, even if that happens with one team, which again, probably not likely, even if it happens with one team, probably not likely because I think those teams are better than the Tigers were last year at least. You still got 3 other teams that are really solid. So it's like, cool, the Yankees collapse. Well, the Blue Jays and Orioles are also probably well ahead of you at that point. So I know the Orioles and Blue Jays both haven't gotten off to super hot starts. I mean, the Sox are only 1 game back of the O's and 2 of the Blue Jays. But you get my point where it's like they're going to have to jump multiple teams if they keep digging this hole for themselves. And so I think the division is pretty unlikely at this point. And again, let me clarify as well. I'm not just saying this because they're 2-7. It's because of how they've been 2-7 and the flaws that I am watching with my eyes that I do not think are going anywhere. Like, it's not even about the record. If they had like snuck out 1 or 2 more of these games, I'd still be really concerned just with like Suarez still has an 8 ERA, even if they won today. Like, that's still going to have been a fact. You know what I mean? So like, it's a combo of the hole they're building plus the fact that I'm like, they don't look like a good baseball team right now. And I think they can turn it around. They did it last year, but yeah, to me, I feel like they're 50-50 for playoffs right now. And that might even be like me being kind of optimistic based on what I'm seeing, but I still think they can make the playoffs for sure. But again, I think the 90 plus wins is, they better turn it around quickly if they want that to be realistic.
Thank you everyone for listening. 64 Deep, a Red Sox podcast. Please like and subscribe wherever you're listening to. Sean, last question before we go, and then we'll end it. 89.5 is what you told me for the over-under. Remind me again, were you over or under?
I was under.
Okay. Where do you think, if you had to come today with an over and under, where are you putting them at?
Yeah, I think when we talked about it, I said I was in the, I think I picked them to win 88 or 89 right there.
Yes, you did.
So I was just under. Well, I don't know. I might move to like 87.5 now, at least 2 lower.
That's a lot.
But
decent amount.
It is. This early in the season, this early in the season, it is a lot to move. Because if they were like 4-4 or 5-4, 4-5, we probably wouldn't even be saying that. But
would 87 in 2025 would that have gotten in the playoffs? No, right? It wouldn't have. Let
me look. I think it might have. Let me double check.
I feel like it because they had it come down to the last week against Cleveland, and Houston eventually got eliminated. I think 87 might not have gotten in the playoffs last year. It took them the last week of the season to clinch. I could be wrong. But I want to say 87 is going to get you either tied or...
Last year, 87, you would have been tied for the final wild card spot. So the Tigers won 87 and they made the playoffs, and the Astros won 87 and they missed the playoffs. So it would have come down to tiebreaker.
And that's why these games... That's why these games in March and April matter, like we said before, just as much as the game in September, October. Because when you're that close, and when wild card, when you're not looking like it's not about, it used to be, you hear the old heads talking about it because it was either division or bust, or you can win a wild card spot. But now it's got to the point now where it gets so neck and neck down into the year. These games matter so much. And so when you start off these 2-7 years, and look, we watched the Mets make the World Series. No, they made the NLCS after starting off a year very similar to this. But that's the exception, not the rule. And this is why getting off to good starts is so important. This is why a team like the Yankees, even if they go through that June swoon, which they'll probably go through, it's okay. They've got enough goodwill banked from March and April that they can figure things out. We don't have that luxury. It's pedal to the metal for the rest of the year.
Yep. And just for context, they have to play, just to get 87 wins now, they have to play at 90 win pace the rest of the way. So that's kind of like the difference there is like that those couple games here and there do make a difference to your point. And it really does matter when people say like, oh, it's just one game, it's a long season. It's like, yeah, but it adds up.
It does. Yeah, it's pressure. A lot of pressure for you to perform. Thanks everyone for listening to 64 Deep, a Red Sox podcast. I am your host, Big John. Alongside of me is Sean, the Big Smooth Jones. We'll catch you guys in a week or two as we try. Hopefully, next time we come on, Sean, we have a winning streak going on. Have a good night, everybody.
That would be nice.